Andrew Fitzpatrick is a former civil engineer with almost a decade of sales, engineering and commercialisation experience. He has worked on highly complex construction projects including the redevelopment of Battersea Power Station. Andrew now directs all UK business development activities for BrainBox AI, a company that helps businesses transform their buildings' environmental impact using AI. We spoke to Andrew about his early career and his passion for a big data approach to maximise the operational energy efficiency of buildings. Please introduce yourself and tell us about your career history and highlights.
Great, so my name is Andrew Fitzpatrick. I'm a Director of Business Development for BrainBox AI here in Europe. I'm based in London, but as you can tell from the accent, not from here originally, been living in the UK for 7 years, originally from Canada. Before joining BrainBox AI, which is coming up on about 2 years now, so before joining the tech side of the built world, I was already quite entrenched in the built environment, the built world. I studied civil engineering. And so after civil engineering, I went into the construction sector, really got my boots dirty. I was fortunate enough to work for one of the largest main contractors in the world called Bouygues, or as they're known in the UK, Bouygues. It's a tough name to pronounce. Anyway, I worked with them for about 7 years on a collection of mega projects, billion-dollar projects in Miami in the US, and then in London, including the Battersea Power Station project. And then I guess you could say I had some sort of quarter-life crisis, took a pause on my construction career, did my MBA, a one-year program here in London. And towards the end of the MBA, I thought and reflected and realized I love buildings. I love to build things, and as boring as it sounds, or as sad as it might sound to some people, I love watching concrete dry. There's something special about just building something so tangible and so enormous in scale. So I knew I wanted to stay within the built environment, but I didn't want to be doing exactly what I was doing before in construction. I was really fascinated by technology, innovation, and so I thought what better way to go than to join an actual startup. And so after my MBA, I actually joined a construction technology startup called XYZ Reality. They do these fantastic AR headsets. Worked with them for about 1.5 years, and then BrainBox AI came calling. I met them on their way to COP26, actually, in Glasgow. Met them at King's Cross. We had a good chat. They asked me if I wanted to join the team to land and expand the technology in the UK, and so I've been with them ever since, working in the UK, Ireland, and some countries in Europe, including France, Belgium, Luxembourg.
FMs are currently navigating a lot of regulatory changes in the UK, such as minimum energy efficiency standards. What role can AI play in helping FMs navigate this?
So it is a complicated question. Regulation is never easy to navigate. But what I think is true is that facility management teams will play an absolutely vital role in meeting energy efficiency regulations, whatever they may be. I think we talk about MEES a lot, minimum energy efficiency standards. I think that's a good starting point for FM teams in this conversation. AI, in the broader scheme, I can't speak to everyone, but if we look at operations of buildings and AI, today, by automating a lot of the equipment, we can free up time for the FM teams to work on day-to-day maintenance, replacing equipment, understanding the environment, and making sure the tenants are comfortable. In that way, we can help them change the fabric of the building or what's installed. That will impact the EPC rating. But if we look at where I think MEES is going in terms of operational energy use, the AI that we have will reduce the energy consumption within buildings. So it's a direct impact on either regulatory mandates or internal policies of building owners. Building owners have net zero targets for 2030, 2040, and that's reducing their own energy usage internally.
How can AI specifically help with managing HVAC equipment?
I think it's a match made in heaven because AI is really only as good as the data that it ingests. Data is the food for AI. And so when we look at buildings and how they're run, which components are the most data heavy, it's the HVAC equipment. They have the most inputs, the most outputs, and the most variables to deal with. So that's very good for AI. And the second reason why HVAC equipment can leverage AI effectively is because HVAC equipment are the single largest contributor to energy consumption within buildings. They represent typically around 40 to 60% of energy consumed within commercial real estate. And so in saying that is the value proposition of BrainBox AI, which is leveraging all that data internally, marrying it up with external data, and what we've created is a a decarbonization platform that can measure Scope 1 and 2 GHG emissions. We can reduce those set emissions by reducing the energy consumption within buildings and finally offsetting in order to get to net zero. But it's all rooted in our core technology, which uses deep learning, machine learning to optimize the way a building runs. So no longer is a building optimized once per year, once per month, once per day. If you're lucky, it's being optimized 24/7, 365. And in doing that, we're making the building more intelligent, we're making it greener, we're making it more efficient. And what that actually means for FM teams or clients today is tangible, important reductions. So we can reduce HVAC energy consumption by up to 25%. We can reduce the carbon emissions within buildings by between 20 and 40%, depending on the energy mix. And we're doing this without compromising, so we're not making it more uncomfortable. We're improving the comfort of the tenants or clients within buildings. And finally, we're extending the useful life of equipment within buildings, so making them run for longer, which is all helping facility management teams in their day-to-day work.
What are AI's current limitations in the commercial real estate market, and how do you think this will change in the next decade?
I think today one of the challenges that we have is within the existing building stock. So I say existing building stock because there's a stat out there that says that 80% of the buildings that will exist in 2050 already exist today. So we have to deal with what's already here. The other 20%, the new build, the fancy buildings that we're going to see pop up in our skyline, they're going to be efficient, they're going to be state of the art. I'm sure we'll have to tweak them, but they're going to be very efficient. It's that other 80% that's going to be the challenge. And I think that's even more challenging in the European environment. If we look at North America, it's younger. If we look at the UK, for example, you have buildings from the 1800s, even older than that, but you also have buildings that were built kind of in the last few years, obviously. And if you look at that range of buildings, you have different sorts of technologies that are installed over time. And so I wouldn't say it's so much a limitation, but a challenge that is already being improved today. So just to give you two kind of examples of what we see today, AI is only good as the data that it ingests. So HVAC systems sometimes still use pneumatic controls, which is very old-fashioned. Today, they almost always use electronic controls, where now you can create data, consume, and leverage that data. So we're already seeing HVAC equipment that use pneumatic controls being replaced so that technologies like ours can take advantage of that new data. And secondly, BMS systems have progressed over time. They used to be very proprietary, but now they're very open. And we see that openness as something that's evolving, and we're seeing more and more buildings using open protocols or open languages to communicate, to allow for two-way communications, which helps FM teams get better visibility, helps them get better control, and it helps them leverage technologies like ours that can be deployed on top of a BMS in order to optimize the way it's running the building itself. So I think we're seeing that shift already, and that digital retrofit of existing assets will accelerate adoption of technologies like ours.